It's that time in the offseason. It is Eric Crocker's Mock Draft 1.0 Pre-Combine Edition Croc Mock on today's Locked On 49ers.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker at BD Peacock at Coach Crocky. Thank you everybody so much for making us your first listen of the day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. And thanks for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. The entire NFL world is descending upon Indianapolis. But we've got time for a little mock draft today, Croc, because it always happens where it's like, oh, it's combine week, but then nothing happens still for like 4 more days until finally start getting weigh-ins in numbers. And I'm sure there's going to be some nice reports and some rumors coming out of Indianapolis in the next couple of days. But it's a good time for us to kind of dial in the Croc Mock number 1.0, Eric Crocker's first pass at projecting the San Francisco 49ers draft in 2026.
And this is a pre-combine draft. So I'm just curious to see how things change post combine, because you start getting numbers, official height, weight, all that stuff. You start kind of piece things together, and it can change just a little bit.
Absolutely, yeah, and probably tomorrow's show, depending on what kind of news pops, if there's anything big with the 49ers, we can start talking about maybe some specific players we're really looking for, what we hope to see, hope not to see from some prospects that might be in this area of the draft for the 49ers late round 1 and really into round 2, and then maybe some players that kind of jump out as sleepers over the course of combine week. And I love talking about what my favorite things are about the combine, what I really be looking for, different position groups, because I think some things are overrated, some things are underrated about what a prospect physically is and how it might be different for the 49ers versus another football team in the NFL too. With all that said, Croc, is there any big themes with this mock draft? Was there any big like overarching thing you were really trying to do when you set out on the Croc Mock 1.0?
You try to do, best available player and kind of match that with some positional needs. And, I think most NFL, and I only did one mock. So I only did one. So however that played out, that's how I was going to do it. Because in real life, like the coaches, they don't have any do-overs. So I couldn't manipulate it to make it into, to make the pieces fall where I want them to fall. So I can take this player because the fan base would like this, or the fan base want this position, etc. I want to take the best player available that made sense for the 49ers to take.
Well, and you've got to realize the responsibility that you have, Croc, because we're tastemakers in this. Because you see a lot, what happens is certain members of the fan base get really excited about certain prospects because a lot of the people in the media start looking at different prospects and being, this guy's a really good fit. And all of a sudden another person looks at it. Yeah, let's do a film breakdown of this prospect. And then, there's like this snowball effect for certain prospects. And then 49ers fans start to really fall in love with certain prospects. Doing the Locked On NFL Daily Six-Pack podcast that I do with Williamson, and we were talking about potential trades that maybe are the Raiders just going to turn down every possible trade for Fernando Mendoza. And the Raiders fans are already locked in. Like if they knew what number he was going to have, they would already be buying jerseys. Like they don't want anything else. Like there was one listener responded to one of our conversation about, would you trade him for this? Would you trade him for that? Would you trade the rights to pick number 1 for this? And one of the listeners said, there's no way they will ever trade the number 1 pick and the rights to draft Fernando Mendoza because he has Peyton Manning's mind and Josh Allen's body. That's how good of a prospect he is. And I was like, buddy, we got to slow down on this. I know you're excited about Fernando Mendoza, but that's what happens. It's the group think, and we start going through all this. So be careful, Croc. Some of the prospects you start talking about, 49ers fans are going to start getting very excited about seeing them in the red and gold. So what did it look like when you got on the clock in the first round? And here's another thing that's interesting. My most accurate mock drafts in the end are ones that I don't use a simulator because I think I have a better idea of where players are going to actually end up being. And you are not trapped by the simulator because a player that I think is going to be there in round 3 doesn't ever make it to round 3 in the simulator, or vice versa. You have to take a player way earlier than you think he's actually going to end up going. So once we get down to the nitty gritty of it, later in a month or two, I think we'll have a lot better idea where these guys are going to actually go. And then, for my final mock, I don't want to be at the mercy of a simulator.
We have San Justice in the chat right now, and it says, Crocker, do you see any trade-up candidates, or is talent deep enough to stay at 27? Again, I believe that's something that just matters with how the board is falling. There could be somebody, falling for whatever reason, right? It could be just quarterbacks start to get pushed up. It could be a run on offensive tackle. Sometimes you see a run, a team maybe thinking they want a position a little bit later, and it's like, oh, well, this is a really good guy right here. He fits what we want. So we take him, and you start to see a run on defensive backs or receivers, and they kind of pushes some other guys down the board. And it's like, this guy can really help us right now. Let's draft him, right? Or let's trade up for this guy. So in that scenario, would love to trade up. Again, I don't know who that exactly would be, but in this mock, it was interesting because some of the guys that I thought would have been there weren't there. But also, again, this is a mock draft, and I'm using a simulator. So we could be talking about some prospects here where you're like, oh, hell nah, that guy's going top 5. That guy's going top 10. I don't know. All right. But I do know this. I was faced with a tough decision. I like that Peacock said tight end or linebacker early on. And there was a tight end that I like, Sadiq, tight end out of Oregon. I thought about it, guys. I thought about pulling that trigger.
And he was there at pick 27.
He was there at pick 20.
He's a beast. He's a dude. I mean, size-wise, he's not your typical 6'5" wide tight end, but dude's built like a running back. Super athletic. He'd be very interesting in Kyle Shanahan's offense.
So clearly, I went with the linebacker. Right? And this linebacker here, okay, I'm just going to go out there and throw his name out. Sonny Styles. So 49ers, pick 27, take Sonny Styles, linebacker out of Ohio State, 6'4", 243 pounds. And when you watch this guy, first, okay, let's start with why I took Sonny Styles. The 49ers are clearly looking for that other linebacker. They've thrown stuff out there. They drafted guys that have, legit traits, but they're more 6th-round guys. Are they first or second round caliber guys? No, they have gotten lucky. I don't want to say lucky. The 49ers have done a terrific job of evaluating guys in the 3rd round, Fred Warner, in the 4th, 5th round, right? 5th round guys, Dre Greenlaw, right? They've gotten guys that I feel like that, make it seem like, man, you can always find those guys. Like, no, that's tough. That's tough. And they drafted Nick Martin 3rd round. This isn't me giving up on Nick Martin, but this is me saying, you know what? I want to solidify not just the present at the linebacker position next to Fred Warner, but potentially, 3 years when Fred Warner may be gone, right? He's closing in on 30 years old right now. And Sonny Styles, when you watch him, he is not a guy to me that I would have never guessed he's 6'4", over 240 pounds. That's not the way he moves. He plays with that type of strength, ability, but man, he is a fluid guy. And the crazy thing is, as I was looking into him, before I made that selection, the comp that continued to pop up, and I didn't understand why until I saw his height and weight and everything. Fred Warner. I mean, it was from like this production standpoint, the things that he does, it was like, oh, this is Fred Warner Jr. So what better way to complete your starting linebacker group? 49ers got to get better in all kind of places. And of course, would love to get better in the trenches. I would have loved this to be an offensive tackle, a defensive end. Would have loved to be that. I didn't want to force a pick, and I wanted to take a guy that can come in right now, make an immediate impact, and strengthen an area where the 49ers clearly, I mean, you go get to the playoffs, they started having linebackers. We don't even know who those guys were, and they were having to play. So Fred Warner, he's going to come back. He snapped his ankle. I'm assuming he'll be 100%, but he was hurt badly, and he's a little bit older, still playing at an elite level. Outside of him, there's no certainty at any linebacker spot. So I got Sonny Styles. I was not at all expecting to draft a linebacker in this spot, but when I saw him, I said, ooh. I continued to do some studying on him. I watched the stuff. What are they saying? Oh, man, and everything just checks off. This is a legit guy. almost looks so good that I'm not sure he's actually going to be there for the 49ers. I picked 27, but I love the pick at least for this exercise.
And you have to be mobile because the draft is always way more insane than any mock draft that you see, and you never know who's going to fall. And you have to be ready that if a player that maybe is unexpectedly there, you have to be ready to pounce on a player like that and not force a need at another position. And in this case, that would be Sonny Styles, linebacker from Ohio State, 6'4". I think I've seen him listed as 6'5", so we'll see what he turns in at the combine, but super athletic, can do a lot. And I would assume he'd be that guy playing weak side backer, jumping over the top of last year's third rounder and jumping over the top of D Winters for you, Croc.
Oh, yeah, definitely. This is your guy. This is your guy long term. I mean, we're talking for the next 8 years, and hopefully there's some kind of pass off. I know it didn't last as long as you would have liked with Patrick Willis and Navarro Bowman, but, kind of staggering those kind of guys, those kind of picks where, there was some years with Willis, and then all of a sudden, I think there was Willis, Takeo Spikes, and then you draft Navarro Bowman, third round. He developed into something that was amazing, got robbed of Defensive Player of the Year, in my opinion, in like 2012. But I'm hoping that this is the best pairing of linebackers since then.
All right, next we're going to get through round 2 and the rest of Eric Crocker's San Francisco 49ers mock draft 1.0. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by TurboTax. And tax season does not have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax full service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish, without the stress or guesswork. And instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person or connect online. They handle everything: W-2s, self-employed forms, and work to get you every deduction, which is so important. And you can feel good knowing that you upload your documents, go about your day, and get updates right in the TurboTax app. And for a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in. If a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year, just file by February 28th. You want to hurry and take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit TurboTax.com/local to book your appointment today. That's TurboTax.com/local. The offseason doesn't exist for the Everydayer Club. Join the group chat, talk 49ers, talk draft year-round, and get every episode of the show ad-free. All you got to do is head to lockedon49ers.supercast.com or hit the link in the show notes to learn more about the Everydayer Club. Okay, Croc, we're on to round 2, going linebacker, off-ball backer, Sonny Styles out of OSU in round 1. And where are you going in round 2 here in your mock draft?
All right, round 2. I think this one is a little bit more predictable. But again, another guy who, if you told me right now, we're talking about pre-combine, pre-measurements, pre-meetings, it feels like this guy will go higher. But who knows? All right, who knows? But he was there for me in this draft. So, on the board, couldn't pass him up. Emmanuel McNeil-Warren with the 58th overall pick, safety out of Toledo.
Big-time athletes with some length, Croc, with the first 2 picks here. And what I love about both of these picks, actually, linebacker, safety, is you can kind of start to close the book on those positions. Because you've been looking at these positions and you're like, you got to need here. What kind of player do you need? And if you draft a player late, then maybe they become a guy, maybe they don't become a guy. Who's going to start? What's the camp competition going to be? And there are a couple of positions that the 49ers kind of just never had right last year. And with picks like Sonny Styles, Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, or any big time safety linebacker combination, Croc, you really just solidify the middle of the field for a new defensive coordinator and for a defense where you can stop talking about safety. You can stop talking about linebacker in this scenario.
Yeah. And this is a guy, again, you put on any of these 2 guys' film, especially McNeil-Warren, he does some freaky stuff. I did say that he was a guy, man, he's playing all off athleticism, right? And then I watched some more film and I'm seeing some stuff, right? I did a little bit more research after our initial film study. I'm like, man, there's also some instincts there, some freakish instincts. We talked about the length. He looks longer than 6'2", in my opinion, that he's listed at. Now maybe that's because he's playing at TVO. Maybe they're not playing against the biggest competition, like just big guys. But watching him out there, man, he looks like a physically imposing safety, and I feel like the style of play matches what Kyle Shanahan likes out of guys. But now he adds the athleticism aspect that I feel like the 49ers are missing at the safety position, and ability to really cover range at every level. Like, this is a 3-level player. Line of scrimmage, he's there, really taking the initiative to get in on all the action. He could play man coverage on guys in the slot. Not saying I would live with him there, but he did it and did a good job of triggering and making plays there. And then we know what he is on the back end. You want him at single high. You want him at 2 high. The way he's flying around, playing with a lot of athleticism, showing that length, knocking balls away late, showing makeup speed. He just showed a lot of ideally what I would like to see out of my secondary guys. Now, this is not an edge rusher. This is not an offensive tackle or anyone that's going to play in the interior of an offense. But again, I wanted to get the best players available, guys that were going to come in and make an impact right now. And I'm building up the second level of the 49ers defense.
All right, moving on to round 3, Croc. How did you finish up day 2 of this mock draft?
Now, this was a tougher one. And again, I didn't want to force a pick because as we're going through this, you got the fan base in your mind. And you're like, oh, if I don't go O-line, if I don't go D-line, like they're going to kill me in the comments and say it's terrible.
Can we talk about that really quick? Because I hope the 49ers are in a place where if a really good prospect falls to them, then they can select that player and not force need, because free agency is for need right now. The draft is for talent later. That's the way it should be. And I think the 49ers have gotten weird and gotten off of that, and possibly why they've missed on some picks on day 1 and day 2 in recent drafts. And, if the right player is there, you got to take them, even if it's not the biggest need. And that's why it's helpful to attack need in free agency, so that you don't feel forced to go do that early in the NFL draft if the board doesn't fall your way.
Well, this pick is definitely going to be for a little bit later. And you would like to have this guy come in and make an immediate impact now. I also did something that I feel like the 49ers have not done. They just haven't done it. And I drafted a center. All right.
I like it.
I drafted a center 3rd round. Now, the only reason this guy is available, bear with me, fan base, the only reason this guy is available in the 3rd round.
Don't say he's got a torn ACL, Croc.
He had a torn ACL. Connor Lew. All right. Connor Lew, center out of Auburn. The tape is phenomenal. I was watching this game against Georgia. And he just did a terrific job. Just passing stuff off. A terrific anchor. He was smart. He was finding work. He showed really good movement side to side, like within that kind of box, between the guards. He was terrific. He was good versus the run. In the run game. He was good in the pass game. And this is a guy that 100% would have been the first center off the board, but he had this injury. So it made him fall. And I just felt like the 49ers would be the beneficiary of, okay, you have an injury. Kyle likely wants to play a veteran at the center spot anyways. Is this a guy, when healthy, can come in and play? I think he potentially would have been a day 1, maybe early day 2 pick. But because of the injury, he slides, and we're able to get him late in the 3rd. So I feel like the 3rd, especially late in the 3rd, was more of a position where you can draft this guy right here, where it's like, hey, he has really good talent, but he had the injury. Now, if it works out, because again, this is late 3rd round. Excuse me, if it doesn't work out, then you can just say, well, it was a late 3rd round pick. They used a late 3rd round pick on Jake Moody. Cameron Law too. There's a lot of those guys. So hopefully this is a guy where they say, well, he has more ability and would have been drafted much higher than those guys if healthy. So I guess as in the chat, T Benny says bulky, kind of a bulky type pick with the ACL pick.
Well, last week Croc was Crocky Shanahan. Now he's Crocky Bulky today with the ACL.
I just wanted to draft the guy. He was the best available. I think he plays very well.
You know what? You know what you've also collected with at least 2 of these 3 picks is some solid arm length as well, which is a very bulky way to go. Center is a future need. I don't think the 49ers are necessarily looking to replace their center this offseason, but they've got to get in front of that, and you've got to develop a guy for next year anyway. So if you drafted a guy who wasn't coming off a torn ACL, it'd be the same story for a mid-round center where they'd be learning on the job and then be ready to jump into that starting role next year anyway. So I got no problem with Connor Lew coming off a torn ACL if you potentially have a stud center of the future that can start in 2027 and beyond.
Yeah.
Next, Croc. 3 selections in round 4 for the San Francisco 49ers, and we will finish up Croc Mock 1.0 coming up. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by FanDuel. How would you like to go to the NBA Finals, live and in person? Well, FanDuel is giving you the chance to turn that dream into a reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any NBA future, and you'll automatically be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for 2. That's right. Flights, tickets, the whole experience. Trip for 2 to the NBA Finals. You're already looking at the board, thinking about what team could make a deep run. This is the perfect time to lock it in. Futures are fantastic this time of year. Whether you're picking a team to win the championship or grab a conference title, adds an extra layer to the excitement down the stretch. And now, not only can you your pick cash, but can also send you the finals. So visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Okay, Croc, we're moving on to day 3 now of this mock draft for the San Francisco 49ers. Got a linebacker, Styles in round 1, McNeil Warren, safety round 2, Connor Lew, center of the future in round 3. Where are you going in round 4?
So I like the way that John in the chat is thinking. He's talking about Skylar Bell here from UConn, and that was a guy that I was hoping would be there. Could have took him in the 3rd round, but I was like, let's see if he's there 4th round. I'm going to address this offensive line here. I really like him as a prospect. I think there's a chance he's here around here. We'll see how fast he runs, but he's twitched up, sudden, really crafty when it comes to how he creates separation at the top of the routes. So, John, I'm with you. I really like Skylar Bell as well, but he wasn't there. But I did go receiver. When the 49er fan base hears this name, listen, just you guys got to trust me here. I'm looking at the 49ers and the type of receivers that they kind of have right now, mixed with some of the things that they typically like. All right. Is Juwan Jennings going to be gone? So do you want kind of a bigger body, a guy that is going to bring some type of physicality? You're also missing guys that, and we want the Yak Bros. Where are those Yak Bros? They're all gone. Is there somebody where you can give end arounds to, handoffs? Can you throw fades to this guy? All right. So I wasn't expecting this. And this name may scare some people, but in the 4th round with pick 127 out of North Dakota State, Eric Crocker drafts Bryce Lance, receiver, 6'3", 210 pounds. And if you told me I was watching Christian Watson's film, I would say, man, I think that's what I'm watching. But I wasn't. I was watching Bryce Lance, Trey Lance's little brother.
Trey Lance's little brother to the San Francisco 49ers. Didn't have to spend 3 first-round picks on this one. Bryce Lance, wide receiver from North Dakota State. Does he have that? I haven't gotten to the Bryce Lance film yet, partially because
I was surprised.
He's got that kind of juice, huh?
I was surprised. I mean, you see the run after catch. You see like a big body. Like you see just contested catches. He was doing it all. Over 1,000 yards this past season. This is a very productive receiver for North Dakota State, a team that is now going to the FBS. But, I mean, just big-time contributor on a championship year in and year out caliber teams. Like, so he understands how to prepare. I get things didn't go well with his brother. This isn't me. This pick has nothing to do with Trey Lance at all. This was me seeing the guy, and I'm like, well, why is Bryce Lance here right now? Like, this is where people are projecting him to go. And then I went and watched the film. Actually, before every selection, I watched film on guys that were there. So I'm like, why is Bryce Young here? So I'm watching, I'm looking, oh, he can play. Oh, this is a real thing. And I put a tweet out and people were like, there's mixed emotions. There were some people like, scared, his brother's name. And there were others that were like, oh, Croc, you're late. You're late to the party. Well, I'm a little late to the party, but I'm all in now. So Bryce Lance, just a terrific receiver. And I feel like at this point, you drafted Danny Gray. He didn't even play, barely. So it's not that you have anything to lose. You're trying to find productive guys, but I think this is a guy that has a terrific skill set, brings you size, brings you run after catch, brings you, ability to be versatile, contested catches, and kind of fills some of the voids that the 49ers have in their receiver room right now.
In the chat, DJ Bo says, I already got my Lance jersey in the closet. Yeah, you got to give him that number 5 and be good. You recycle those things. All right. Croc going wide receiver to start round 4. Second pick in round 4, Croc. Where are you going?
All right, we'll pick 133 in the 4th round. I selected out of Baylor, Michael Trigg, tight end, big body, terrific catching ability. All right, this is a tall, long arm guy. He's almost like an arrogant pass catcher. I know the 49ers at this point in drafts, usually they do take tight ends, but they take like these tight ends that had like 4 catches, 6 catches, trying to strike gold, trying to find another George Kittle. We weren't going that route. We were going to find a guy. Can he be productive in the passing game? Can he present any type of matchup problems to be able to play opposite George Kittle whenever Kittle is back? And this is an arrogant pass catcher type of guy. He forced the second most missed tackles by all tight ends in college football. Just the hands, the ability, the contested catches, that is all there with this guy. And I talked about just arrogant hands. I think there's just kind of this arrogance about him in his play style that I was really drawn to. So Michael Trigg, big body guy, about 6'4", 6'5", 240 pounds. The hands, the cat, like all that stuff is there. Can they probably get him to be a better blocker? I'm sure they'll harp on that. But a tight end at this point with his type of ability, I couldn't pass him up.
Couple Yak Bros in the 4th round. I like it. Add some athleticism to the San Francisco 49ers offense. One more pick in round 4, Croc. Unless you traded one of these away, you still got 3 in round 4?
I still have 3 in round 4. So with my last pick in the 4th round, out of Arkansas, all right, Arkansas, pick 138 in the 4th round, running back Mike Washington Jr. And this guy here, there are shades of Grinnell. He's a big body, 6'3", 220, 222. But when you watch him, I promise, especially if you're watching any type of like all 22 film, he does not look that big. I mean, he's a very fluid runner. And we've seen the 49ers kind of have, especially when they're bigger guys, kind of like one cut, doing all that. No, this is a guy, he's fluid, he moves well, he has acceleration. He doesn't run like a big back until he has to finish his run. Then you're like, oh, he is big. But he's a little bit more of a fluid runner than we saw from Garindo. Like, this is a guy, especially when he got to being the full factor back. So running back is definitely a position. We saw what the 49ers are trying to do with getting Robinson over from the Commanders, traded for him, and he's kind of a bigger body guy. Well, why not get a bigger body guy who also has juice, who also has acceleration? So Mike Washington Jr., running back out of Arkansas, big back.
I like this comp, Lance Zierlein of NFL.com, just to put a picture in some fans' heads if they not watched Mike Washington. Comp Chris Carson, former Seahawks running back. Had some size to him, had a little bit of speed, kind of a little bit of everything.
What does the scouting report say on him? Because I just watched him. I didn't read like any scouting reports or anything.
Imposing size, impressive straight line speed, agile feet, loose hips, allow for smooth change of direction, has bursts to keep the run wide and beat flowing pursuit to the corner, reads blocks and moves fluidly through the lane, development inside. Size allows him to run through cornerbacks in run support, able to drive through tacklers and fall forward for additional yardage, can do damage with big plays on swing passes. Weaknesses, needs to gather his steps to get downhill into cuts in outside zone schemes, needs to become more willful and aggressive between the tackles. Can be a step slow at times, opening and triggering downhill. There you go.
So we got a good running back coach. He's going to get him right with that. Put your foot in the ground and get upfield, big guy.
Yeah.
Outside of that, when they talked about the feet and they talked about his, the hips and the elusiveness and things like that, man, at that size, it was very impressive.
All right, nearing the end. One more pick. Is that right?
One more pick. Yeah, I used all.
Be done in round 5 unless they start doing some trading. 7 picks in 5 rounds for the 49ers with those comp picks in round 4. And all right, finishing up the mock draft then. Croc Mock 1.0. Who you got in round 5?
Yeah, finished up. Another interior offensive lineman here, Fibechi Nawawu and Nawawu. I hope I said that right. Offensive guard out of Oklahoma. And that was just me, 5th round, just doubling up offensive linemen. I'm just hoping that I hit on one of these guys.
Fibechi Nwawu. I think so. Something
go.
like that. Yeah, I think you did good, Croc, with that one. Yeah, guard out of Oklahoma. 49ers have a need at guard, current. I think a future competition at guard. And also have a need future center, have a need future tackle. So doubling up on offensive line. That's probably the way my final mock draft is going to look as well, depending on what they do in free agency. 6'3", 324 pounds. Can he move some people out of the way, create a little space for Christian McCaffrey, Croc?
Well, that's what we're hoping. That's what we're hoping. This is also a guy, again, and what I really did with most of this draft, taking pretty much close to the top of best player available. He was a guy at that pick, one of the best players available. So it's not like I said, oh, let me just go get another interior offensive lineman or an offensive lineman in general. Nope, I went towards best available. He was near the top. I looked into him, said, you know what? This is a guy that may fit a little wider than what the 49ers typically go for. And we've seen a lot of times 49ers go with the tall tackle type guy and move him into guard even at those picks. But he's a guy that's an interior guy right now. And I feel like he fits the role of something the 49ers need. Somebody who's going to be stout in their interior.
There you go. Croc Mock 1.0. Probably shocking some fans going off-ball backer in round number 1. Big-time players at the top. Sonny Styles, linebacker from Ohio State in round 1. Emmanuel McNeil Warren out of Toledo, safety in round 2. Connor Lew, ACL safety, is a future pick in round center, round 3. Connor Lew from Auburn. Bryce Lance, Trey Lance's little bro, North Dakota State wide receiver in round 4. Following up with Michael Trigg, tight end from Baylor, and Mike Washington Jr., running back from Arkansas in round 4. Finishing up with the guard, Fibechi Nwawu from Oklahoma. And that is Croc Mock 1.0. Love it, Croc. Hit some key spots. And I can't wait to hear what the listeners have to say about the Croc Mock. Let us know in the chat. Let us know on the YouTube comments. Let us know at BD Peacock, at Coach Crocky. It is Combine Week. We'll have so much more to go, talking about the Combine, what we're looking forward to seeing, what we do see at the NFL Scouting Combine. So stay tuned and subscribed here to Locked On 49ers.